Two real cryptid legends doing what they do, bringing information for me and you. Ron Moorhead and his Sierra Sounds, Daryl Denton, the Tennessee Bigfoot Man, along with Michelle Desrochers, bring adventures across this land. So much information brought to you each week, actively out there looking as the truth they seek.
Thank you, Scott Hunt. I don't know how to thank you enough. If that honestly doesn't pump you up, I do not know what it's going to be, aside maybe from Daryl, Ron, and Bruce. I think that would do it as well. Anyway, welcome to Two Real Cryptid Legends podcast. You're broadcasting live on United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. Tonight, we are joined by special guest Bruce Brown, a 30-plus-year-old sheriff's deputy who's had multiple encounters. But this one specifically, and I'm sure you can hear about all kinds of them, was a different type of perpetrator, I guess you could say. A little bit on the aggressive side, you know, a little bit hairy, a little bit mean. But anyway, we're going to hear all about it. So without further ado, we'll start with Daryl. Ron, hello.
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 Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, everybody's chiming in. So, hello. My goodness. There's a new face. Hi, Dan. Here's Man of the Hour with this like amazing intro. Thank you. So, Wayne, hello, hello. Saying hi to everybody. Kira, hello, hello. Larry, hello. Just making our way. Heidi, here you are. Hi there. Like to acknowledge everybody. If I'm missing anybody, I do apologize. So, guys, are we ready for our special guest?
Yes, let's do it.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Bruce, hello. Welcome.
Hey,
Welcome.
glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Bruce.
I appreciate it.
So where you guys want to start? We want to start with early days, early tales.
Yeah,
Just
start
back
with
down a little bit.
a little introduction of how you got started in this. That'd be great.
All right, yeah. My first encounter was Bigfoot when I was 8 years old. At that time, I didn't know it was Bigfoot. I had got a kite and was at my grandmother's house and went out in the back field trying to get it in the air, and I couldn't get it up in the air. After 30 or 40 minutes, I just about give up on it. And then I seen three, what I considered to be apes, walk out of the from the creek through the tree line out into the field, and they were watching me trying to get this kite in the air. Well, I couldn't get it in the air, so I went back into the house and told my grandmother, "My kite, I can't get it in the air." And she said, "Well, you ain't got a tail on it." So I was talking to her and telling her about seeing the three apes in the field. She says, "Honey, we don't have apes here in Tennessee." So she got an old sheet out of the closet and she tore it up into three links and tied the tail on my kite. She said, "That'll get you in the air right there." So I went back out there, and these three apes had gone in. And so I started, and about 3 attempts, I got the kite in the air, and these three apes come back out and were watching the kite. So I got it in the air, and when I come to the end of my string, naturally I was bringing it back in the whole time. They'd stepped out in the field watching it, and I had pulled it back in, and then went back inside and told her, we've got 3 apes out there watching me fly my kite. This time it went way up. And she said, honey, there's no apes in the state of Tennessee. And I said, well, me and my daddy watched Wild Kingdom, and those were apes. As long as you don't look them in the eye and stuff, they won't bother you. She said, no, we just don't have that here. So a week or so later, she had me to ride with her over to my great-grandmother, who was a Cherokee Indian. She lived in Buffalo Valley, Tennessee.
Know
So we
exactly
wrote-
where that's at.
Yep. So we went over there, and evidently while I was outside talking to my great-grandfather, my grandmother was telling my great-grandmother what I'd seen. So she called me in the house and set me down there at the kitchen table. And she cooked on the old wood stove back then, and she fixed me some jelly, preserves, and biscuits. I'm sitting down there. She told me, she said, honey, she said, you're not seeing apes. You're seeing hairy men. So she started telling me the story about the hairy man that was passed down through her father and grandfather, that these were Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but she referred to them as hairy men. So from there, she told me the story about they had gone out, the men had gone out and killed some deer and elk and brought it back in that night and hung it up on the poles. And they'd always leave 2 of the Klansmen watching it through the night because that was their food source. And sometime in the middle of the night, they got attacked. The two men watching the meat got killed. And then she told me that the next morning they put together a hunting party and went after and tracked these things and went after and got into a fight with these hairy men. And they lost 2 more members of their tribe, but they were able to take out 2 or 3 of the hairy men too and retrieve part of the meat back. So from there, it was just, I run into other things. We had
That's insane. Sorry. Thinking out loud. Thinking out loud.
One thing. Hello, Martin Groves. He was telling us hello, Ron.
Hi, Martin. You and Martin got something in common, don't you, Bruce? Aren't you a retired deputy also?
Yes, I retired. Excuse me. I got out of law enforcement. I started out as a patrolman. Spent a few years there. Went into deputy sheriff. Then become a sergeant. Become a sergeant of patrol. And become a detective. And from there, I become chief of narcotics. But still held my detective position. And but that's about it. Stayed there for a few years and got hurt busting the old-timey meth labs, and went into retirement. And, well, I didn't want to. The federal government retired me, and so the things I'd seen as a deputy, as a road deputy, and as a patrolman, and as a sergeant of patrol. I decided things I'd seen throughout my life, it was time to me to devote a little time to it and figure out what I was seeing and how to deal with them. So
that's quite a story. That's quite a story. I mean, the aggressiveness, like you don't really hear. I mean, you hear about it, but I think so many people are leaning towards the lighter side of Bigfoot. That's kind of frightening, but you do hear of these stories.
Right. And then I hunted the superintendent of schools, Walter Shanks, here in Putnam County, Tennessee. When I was a younger man, I hunted his property. And he had a bus driver and kids that was showing up to school talking about a bear and its cub crossing the road, excuse me, between 6:20 and 6:30 every morning. And the kids knew it was a bear. So principal got a hold of the superintendent, which was Walter Shanks. He knew me well. And he got a hold of me and asked me would I look into it. So I went and talked to the bus driver, and the bus driver told me, he said, yeah, about 6:20 to 6:30 every morning, this bear and bear cub crossed the road. Now, keep in mind, in this area, there hadn't been any bears in over 100 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I decided to go that night, and the landowner I knew real well, he was a park ranger at Edgar Evans State Park. He owned the land, that farm, and he had just previously, a couple of weeks from me talking to him, had moved his cattle because he had a couple of them come up dead. He'd moved them down to a farm next to mine. That's how I knew him, was through we had farms next to each other. And he decided he wanted to go when I asked him about going up there. So he told his brother-in-law, who worked for Ford Motor Company, about it. Well, his brother-in-law, son, which is this park ranger's nephew, he wanted to go. So they said, well, park ranger's brother-in-law said, well, I've got a brand new Ford truck, four-wheel drive. Y'all can drive it. So we got our guns and stuff together, and we went up there, and we pulled through the barn parking lot, turned around and backed up to the back side of the barn on the upper side where we could see a field. And we waited and got good and nightfall. It was cold. It was in January. So I had a rabbit squill, what they call an old Johnny Walker collar that hung on your back like a backpack with a big speaker. So I set it in the back of the truck, and we laid a quilt on top of the truck, and we laid our guns up there. And we knew we couldn't legally shoot a bear, but we would scare it off. But in the meantime, fur bought good money back then. So if we called a coyote or a fox or something in, we could take that legally. So as we was backed in there, I cut the game collar on and handed the spotlight cord through the window to the young man that was driving. It was his daddy's truck. He wanted to go, and told him whatever to keep that spotlight plugged into that light socket, that cigarette lighter socket. Don't let us pull it out. So we got the collar running, and we hear a couple coyotes, and they're pretty close to us. We know they're out in the field behind the barn where we could see. So I went to, George had the light. He cut the light on. I nudged him cut the light on, and I brought up a .22 rifle to take a shot. And it was a coyote. And then as I was getting ready to take a shot, we heard this terrible scream. It was just nothing we had ever heard. And we were avid hunters. And I sort of nudged George, and I said, hey, hang on a minute. Let's figure out what this is. And we knew it wasn't a bear, because it was just out of character for a bear to make that kind of sounds. So as we were waiting and waiting, this thing stepped out into the field, and it was just a monster to us. It was just the giant, hairiest man we ever seen in our life. A good, from where we were standing in the bed of the truck, looking at it, it had to be at least between 8.5 and 9 foot tall, no problem. So I turned around and I got my high-powered rifle off the cab of the truck, and I turned around and got his. He was shooting a 30-06. I was shooting a 243. Well, I told him, you hold the light, I'll get him in the scope. And I got him in the scope, And just as I was about to pull the trigger on him, he lets out this terrible scream, and it just vibrates our body, goes through our chest just like nothing. And
I felt that before.
so we couldn't pull the trigger. Well, here he comes running at us, and I'm like, let's don't shoot him. Let's don't shoot him. Let's see what he's in a fit. The thing is terribly mad. And he gets within, I'm going to say 15 to 20 yards, maybe even closer than that. Now we're going to have to shoot him. There's no way we can get out of the back of the truck and get back in the truck. So we raise our rifles up to take a shot again. And when he stops and lets out a scream, and it just paralyzed us. We just couldn't move. Well, at this time, the young man driving the truck that was keeping our spotlight plugged in took off. He just drove off. Well, it threw me and Mr. George against the tailgate, and as we were locked up, but when we hit the tailgate, we got our senses back. And as I was going over the tailgate, Mr. George grabbed me and pulled me back in. Well, this thing run us. This young man went out through the barnyard, through the gate, made a left onto the road, and started going down the road. And this thing was running us. And we got up to 25, 30 mile an hour, and we weren't losing it. He was putting it on. He was coming after us. So we had an extra light in the bed of the truck. It was a coon hunter's light. There was a battery pack that hooks on your belt, but we just had it laying loose there. Well, I cut it on and shined it off the back of the tailgate because I was down in the bed of the truck along with Mr. George. And this thing was, we thought the hair was braided, but after thinking more, it might have been just matted, big conical head on him. And he was screaming at us as we was going down the road. We get around the curve, and we're thinking, well, he's going to catch us. But the young man, he gets up to probably 35, 40, 45 mile an hour, and this thing starts fading out. So we get to this young man's house to the place where his father loaned us this four-wheel drive truck. And we pull in the driveway. The young boy bails out of it. He's driving, he bails out and leaves the truck running. He runs in the house. The man comes out, and we're trying to tell him what's going on. And the mother comes out screaming there's something wrong with her son. So we all take off running in there. He can't talk. He's stuttering. He's shaking. He's in shock. And so we get him calmed down somewhat to where we can understand what he's saying. And the mother turns around and she fixes us all hot chocolate. So we're sitting there talking. We got this boy somewhat calmed down. We asked him, so what made you do this? What made you act like this? He said, it's coming to the house. It's going to follow us to the house and kill us all. Well, unbeknownst to us, those trucks had those big outside mirrors, side mirrors. He seen it through the mirror, and it just terrified him. That's the reason why he drove off. And
Wow.
so we talked to him some more and got him pretty well calmed down, but not within what I would call sensible reasoning. So I looked at George, who was a landowner, he was a park ranger. I said, we got to go back up there. We had that quilt laying on top of the truck to keep from scratching it on the cab, and we've lost some guns. And he says, I'm not going back up there, Bruce. He says, I will not go back up there. So we waited till about 7:30 in the morning. We went out there and looked in the bed of the truck. We found 2 of her guns, but we're missing 2. I said, we got to go back. So we went back heavily armed. He didn't want to go, but I talked him into it. And we went back up there. We found 2 of her guns. One of them, the stock was broke on it. One was scratched up pretty good. So we walked around the barnyard there looking, and we seen these massive human footprints. So I was wearing at that time a 9.5 or a 10-inch boot, and I laid my boot sideways in this Bigfoot's track, and I still liked another inch to an inch and a half is what I'm guessing. But my boot being big enough to cross the track sideways. So when I put my boot to the heel of it and put the toe to my boot in front of my boot, we still liked another inch and a half being as long as that track. So you're talking about a 20 to 21.5 inch track.
That's a big track.
That's a monstrous track.
I think the biggest track I've ever seen was a little over 22 inches. And just talked to a friend of mine, Billy Howell, that found a 24-inch one yesterday in one of our old areas. So I've never seen one that big. You had a monster track. What year was this, Bruce? What time frame?
That one would have probably been around 79 to 82.
Okay.
You know,
let me ask you a question, Bruce. You say you shot a coyote or you shot at one?
No, we were fixing to shoot one when this thing screamed, and I nudged the man with me, was a park ranger. I said, "Hold up, we won't shoot. Let's see what this is." Because
so
it was
what do you suspect the aggression was all about? Why do you suppose they were?
Personally, I believe we unintentionally revoked it. We were playing a cotton squeal, rabbit squeal, dying rabbit squeal, and we provoked it.
That's pretty much what they do to attract coyotes. They play that rabbit squeal. But I can tell you this much from my personal experience. 2018, I found out in Cheatham County that a lot of the coyotes will work with the Bigfoot. They will run down the deer for them and then allow them to take the deer, and whatever's left, the Bigfoot gives back to them. So that could have been a possibility.
Yes, I believe that also. We had me and my grandson, he was 4 years old, and I had took him with me on a coyote hunt. And we were using, again, this time instead of a dying rabbit squeal, we was using a dying jackrabbit squeal, a little bit higher pitched. So as we was using it, we called 3 groups of coyotes within range, but as I was getting ready to shoot them, one pack of them, we heard this really odd sound like a coyote, but it was too deep and too far away coming in.
Right.
So I held up shooting the gun, and he got this loud, really deep sound, about like a bull, but with a high-pitched scream of a coyote. When he got down within sight, then my grandson seen him, and he jumped back in the truck and locked the doors on me where I couldn't get in. And I kept telling him, unlock the doors. And he unlocked the doors, and I told him, I said, this is a hairy man. Because he's seen it in plain view. He was holding the spotlight. So he got a really good view on it.
Wow.
So it scared him pretty bad. Now you got to keep in mind, he was very, very young.
Sure.
And it frightened him. And then when I talked to him about it, he was like, well, I'll get back out, but I'm staying behind you. And I said, yes, that's good. So he got back out on the driver's side with me. And then we walked around there to where our collar was. And this thing come out, it was a moonlit night. He come out about halfway into the field, and he just let out just tremendous roars. Well, these 3 packs of coyotes that were answering our calls, they just shut up. They split. And it wasn't because of us. It was because of what they was hearing from that sound.
Right. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty devastating for a little kid to hear something like that. Because the first time you see one of these things, it's definitely life changing.
Right.
Especially
Right.
somebody that young. We're all raised to believe there aren't monsters in the woods, and there are monsters in the woods. So he learned at a young age. I hope he's doing okay now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we have a question for you, Bruce. Hi, Rand. Bruce, is it common for you to freeze rather than shoot in those kind of situations, or do you think the cone head thing affected you in some way with its yell?
Okay. I'm the type of person that when that bullet leaves the end of that gun, you own it. Okay. If you don't know what you're dealing with and you shoot something, it could cause you a lot of trouble, like getting charged for murder or something if it's somebody playing around in the suit. And then on top of that, things that I don't understand, I don't like to shoot and kill. I'm more of an investigative type. I want to know more about it. Unless it imposes a danger on me, like the one at the barn.
100%. I agree
Yeah.
100% with what you're saying. I don't want to kill anything unless it's a matter of life or death for me or
Right.
my friends. So never look to harm these creatures unless you have to.
Yeah, but I think that question to Bruce was, could it have put a spell on you or something that kind of froze you? Or was it your fear? Or was it just the sound of the screen itself? Because I've heard reports over the years, too, of people having these things in their sight and they're going to pull the trigger. They just couldn't because of a feeling they had.
Yeah.
And I think they can, well, my personal opinion is they can affect you with their screams, with their yells, with infrasound or whatever, and cause you to just not do it. I've
I
talked
agree
to
with
people
that.
that had them in their sights and couldn't pull the trigger.
At the back of the truck when I was getting ready to pull the trigger because we had no other choice.
Right.
We couldn't get out. We got ready to pull the trigger when it let out this scream. I call it zapping me because it feels like you touched an electrical circuit
Oh, yeah.
and your muscles locked up.
That's what I'm getting at right there.
Ron
And
and
you
I
could,
both been through that.
Yeah.
So
and you just couldn't pull the trigger. You just you were staring at it. You were trying to do what you could do to pull the trigger because you knew it was going to kill you. We didn't have any doubt it wasn't going to kill you. But the young man started the truck up and drove off. And as we fell and hit, we come out of that daze, I call it, that zap,
yeah,
like he was hit with a taser.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
we were able to come out of it, and he caught me as I was going over the tailgate in the barnyard.
Now, I've been zapped 3 times myself, and I don't know about you. Did you have? I mean, it feels like your legs go to sleep, and then your chest or your stomach's upset, and you got a massive headache, and you're a little bit delirious. You really can't put together where you're at. Now, other people have been affected differently. That's the way I was affected with the Bigfoot. The Dogman was more like somebody was standing on my chest, and my
Yes.
legs were numb. So,
Yeah.
I think it's a form of radiation. I have for quite a while, and I don't know how they admit it, but I think that it is.
The only rational thing at that time I could think about a few days later is the energy from what it was putting out in that sound cause your heart to skip a beat, which would cause you to freeze up.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
It goes through your chest tremendously. It's
I
like
know Ron
standing.
you were zapped up in the Sierra camp, but it was different than that.
Yeah, it was free. Well, yes, I talked about that quite a bit, but yeah, I've been up twice up there, but it wasn't a pressure on my chest that I remember. It was just I couldn't move. It's like I was frozen in force.
It wasn't so much the pressure on her chest as what went through us.
Yeah.
It felt like your heart was skipping a beat.
Well, it's proposed, it's suggested they can present with you with infrasound, which that may be what does it. Because I presented this to a scientist one time, and he says it probably was infrasound. And a lot of large animals use infrasound, which is how they communicate and how big tigers stun their prey when they want to attack us for the attack. So it's possible that that's what they're doing. I have no doubt they can do that. I just say that because we don't know the scope. We just know that they can go way below the human range. They can go inside the human range.
Yeah.
They can have frequencies above the human range,
Right.
and you don't know just how what they can do. These have a very expanded vocal mechanism, and if they can create the frequency that would stun you like that, and
Yes.
I think that could be what's happening.
Now with the Dogman, I like to call I was zapped. With the Dogman, the first thing I had was like an allergic reaction to where my throat was swelling together,
Yeah, that's what Martin had.
and you just can't catch your breath.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get yourself settled down, and it does wear off. It doesn't stick to you for very long, but it's in. You get that same lockup in your muscles, but you get that allergic reaction, I like to call it, to where your throat's swelling up. Your breathing is no longer even. It becomes radical, and you're not doing this to yourself because you're taking your breaths, you're breathing in and out, and it's just something that's just went through your body, and it just like your knuckles, everything is just locked.
Yeah.
Had you witnessed a Dogman at the time that happened, or
Yes, at that time that was a Dogman.
where was
Yeah.
that compared to where the Bigfoots were?
They generally run together or within a certain mile radius of each other.
Uh-huh.
I had one particular Dogman that I was ginseng hunting, and I have ringing of the ears. And I had come to the conclusion that my ringing of the ears were attracting these things. And I had walked around a mountainside, and there was a bluff to the left of me, pretty high. And when I'd come around that mountainside, that bluff, I looked up, and there was a Dogman with red glowing eyes, and this is daytime. So I stopped, froze in my tracks, looking at him. He was looking at me. He jumped down off that bluff, and then I went behind a big tree, which down in those low lying areas where it's deep hollers, mountain ranges, a lot of poplar trees. I stepped behind the poplar tree, and then when he didn't come in close, he made a wide circle of me. And then when he made that wide circle, where I could see him on the other side of me, his eyes had turned amber gold. So that particular one went down towards the bottom of the hill and got into the creek bed, a dry creek bed. So I had turned around and slowly eased back out, going around the hill, and I crossed a couple more ridges, and I'd set up on a flat rock, and a good half a mile away from where I'd seen him, and we're sitting there resting, and this thing comes down the creek bed, and he's on all fours at this time. But just as he gets even with me, I'm partially way up this hill, just out of nowhere. I mean, he just stands up and turns and looks directly at me. He lets out a scream, and that's where I started losing my air, like my throat was swelling. So I got up from there and went behind another tree, thinking I was hid, looking around, but he knew where I was at. He was slowly making his way up the hill. And At this time, he was standing up on his hind legs.
Did you have a gun with you?
Yes, I had a snake killer, a little 22 pistol, but I didn't unzip it out of I was wearing forestry pants, and it had a zipper, and then inside that zipper was another zipper in that pocket, and that's where I carried my pistol. And I didn't pull it out at that time, but my heart was pounding because where I couldn't get my air. So I knew he was coming up the hill, and I said, well, he's going to hear my heart pounding and me trying to catch my breath. So I said, I'm going to have to go straight up this hill, and it's a big mountain. And as I stepped out behind that tree again and looked at him, this time I looked him in the eyes. He had red glowing eyes, and he let out another scream, and this time it zapped me enough to where I got sick at my stomach.
I hate that feeling. I've had that.
Yeah. So I went up and I hit a logging trail, an old logging trail growed up in saplings. I made my way around to a couple of hollers, and then I knew if I could get straight to the top of the hill, there was a fence there and a four-wheeler ATV trail big enough to drive four-wheel drive trucks and stuff down. So when I got up to it, I crossed over the fence. It was a 4-foot woolen wire fence with 2 strands of barbed wire on it. So it's 5.5, 6 feet tall. I get over it, and when I get into this ATV trail, it's clear enough I can see a good distance. So I'm watching behind me to make sure that he didn't bother me. Well, as I was watching, he come up to that fence, and he stepped over that fence like me and you would step over a toy car in the floor. He was just massive. So
how tall do you think he was, Bruce?
Do what?
How tall do you think he was?
He was a good 6.5 feet at the shoulders on all 4.
Wow.
He stood up when he got stepped over the fence, right?
No, he just threw one leg over it, just crossed it, just like we were stepping across a toy car. He didn't. Yes, he was on all 4s. Just walked right across it like it wasn't there.
Wow.
Oh, I see.
So
what part of Tennessee was that in?
that was up in what you call Fentress,
Okay.
in the Pickett County line, off of what they call the Warriors Path,
Okay.
which is an ancient road.
I know that area. Yeah.
So I had went another 50 yards from him. I could still see him. And I thought, well, I'm going to fire off around in the air. So I had, by this time, I'd gotten my pistol out. I shot off a round in the air. Didn't phase him. He didn't pay a bit of attention to it. He just stayed behind me. So there was a hayfield, and my car was at the other end of the hayfield, a good 100 or 150 yards. I knowed if I could make to my car, I could lose him. So I headed to my car. At the same time, I'm talking out loud to let him know. And I'd go a few feet and stop and watch. And when I get in the hayfield, I get directly in the middle of the hayfield. That way, I've got several acres all the way around me. I can see. If he comes out and comes across that field, I got a good chance of seeing him. So I finally get to my car, and I keep my keys. I had a beach towel in the front seat to keep my car seats from getting dirty, because when you're down in the woods, you fall, get muddy, dirty, you're sweating. So when I get in the car, I reach up under my right thigh to get my keys. And when I pull my keys out to put them in the ignition, something hits the side of my car, the front side of my car on the driver's side. Stuck a key in the ignition, and when I looked up, while I was starting it, there's a giant paw print on my windshield, and there's a giant paw on the driver's side windshield right above my mirror. And he tears my mirror down. And I put the car in reverse to back up, but my car, front end of my car on my driver's side is pushing down, and my windshield where his paw is cracking. He's gonna shove my windshield in on me. And when I got in, I laid my pistol in the passenger seat. So I reached over to get my pistol. Now I had got into reverse by then. So I turned around, and he had gotten up on top of my car. And then when I come out and made a right off of this road, and when I made that right, I was able to sling him off because he had went up on top of the car at that time. Because I had to back up, turn around, and come out. And then when I made that right turn, I swung him off the car.
Wow.
Well, I thought that was the end of that encounter. Well, I lived about 18 miles from there. I drove straight home, trying to process all this. I get home, not thinking that it followed me home. Didn't have a clue that it followed me home. And I have a yard dog. He's a little mountain feist, part cur, part feist. Good hunting dog, squirrel hunting dog. And I'm sitting in the house, and it's about, I'm processing this, so it's probably 9 o'clock at night or so. And I hear the dog barking. He's got a certain bark for somebody, a certain bark where somebody pulls up in my driveway. And I was thinking, well, when he started barking, somebody pulled in my driveway, and I just didn't see him. And so he's at the backyard barking. I went into the back door, and I opened the big door and pushed the screen door open and cut the porch light on to see. When I did, the dog run between my legs and went in the house. Something he's never done. He's an outside dog. So I went and got a bigger flashlight because the porch light wasn't putting out enough light, and shined it around there. Didn't see anything. So I went back in the house and in the living room where he was at, and I opened the living room front door. The front door's in my living room, and I walked him back out on the porch. He seemed to be all right. Everything was back calm. And while I was doing that, I went back in and sat down in my recliner watching TV. In just a few minutes, I heard him screaming like something had a hold of him, killing him. So I jumped up, went to the front door, and I could see something out there. Well, I kept a shotgun in the living room behind the couch, standing up in the corner, and my shells were next to my recliner in a drawer. So I grabbed my shotgun, throwed a shell in it, walked out there on the porch, and as soon as I opened the door, he runs by me, about knocks me down, and goes back in the house. My dog does. So the porch light's on. I could see that it's a big wolf standing on two legs. So I shot up in the air to scare it off. And we go back in. The dog's at the front door inside the house. He's still cutting the shine. And then he gets real quiet, and he starts going around the inside of my house to each room. He gets to my bedroom, a north-facing window in my bedroom, and he sits down and starts doing a low growl, but then he starts backing up, whining and growling. And I said, well, this thing's, the dog's been around long enough, I can read him. I said, this thing has come to the window on this side. Well, I went and got my shotgun and loaded it again. And when I come back in the bedroom, he had moved to my southeast facing window on the other wall. And he was cutting a shine. He was barking, growling, whining at the same time. I said, well, I'm going to have to go out the back door. It's not a good idea, but I've got to figure out what's going on. And I knew it wasn't the smartest thing to do. But I had my shotgun, I had number 4 or 5, what we call squirrel shot. And I had walked.
That's not super powerful either.
No, no, it's not. But I walked around to the corner on the outside of the house when I slipped out the back door. Had my flashlight in my hand. When I shined it at my window, he was standing there. And he was just maybe head high with the gutters on my house. Big creature.
Standing on two legs this time.
Yeah, two legs.
What color was he, Bruce?
He was a reddish black, but one side of him was buckskin colored. One whole side was buckskin colored.
Wow.
So
Was anybody else at your house? Just you?
just me, my one of my relatives was sick. My wife's relative was sick, and she had stayed the night there, which I was glad of. And I shot it, and it went down on all fours and took off running. And it run across in front of the house, and I lost sight of it. So I come back in, kept the dog in there. He wasn't an inside dog. He wanted out. Within just seemed like to me seconds, but it probably was 30 or 40 minutes. He wanted back out. So I let him back out the back door, and everything stayed pretty calm that night. So I didn't go to sleep. And I sat in the living room in my recliner with my gun and rested. And
but you did shoot it, you say?
I did shoot it.
With a shot? What? No, that was a 12 gauge with 10 shot. 10
no,
shot.
that was a 20 gauge with a squirrel shot. Number 4 shot, number 5 shot. It was a high brass, but it was a bunch of little BBs.
Do you have any idea of what, did it flinch or anything like that when you shot it?
No. Mm-mm. And when I shot him, he probably wasn't 12 feet from me.
Just took off running.
Just took off. He dropped down on all fours, and he was gone quick.
Were you able to find any blood?
No, there was no blood.
Where do you think you hit it? I mean, with the shot, the way the shot was, do you think it was in the body or the legs or the chest?
The body. Yeah.
Body.
Yeah, he was turned, he was sideways to me when I come around the house, up on 2 legs with his front paws on the house, and just right above him was my gutter.
That was a big creature.
So you shot it in the side?
Yeah, I shot him in the side.
Was that the last time you seen him?
No. The next morning, about a little after daylight, I went out, and we had what we call a rocker glider on the front porch. I sat down in the rocker glider and was drinking my coffee, and I heard a coyote scream, and then I heard another deeper scream, and I knew it was him because I'd heard the sounds before from him while I was in the woods. So I crossed the garden and went into these woods. These woods run about 5 miles long, deep set of woods. And it was early enough in the morning that I got on the shady side of the tree and camouflaged myself in. And then I seen him. So then I got up from there and eased back to the house and got a 243 rifle. It held 3 rounds. And I bought a fresh box of shells a couple of days before that. And I'd stuck them in my back pocket. So I went back down there and got behind another tree in the shady spot and camouflaged myself in. And this time he was in the top of a tree. He started coming down the tree. So instead of shooting him, I just figured, well, I'll run him off. I'll shoot around him and scare him. So I started shooting in the limbs that he was out on, because I had a good scope on it. And then I started shooting the tree. Well, he come down so far and jumped, went down a holler, and climbed another tree. So I sat there and shot till he come out of this next tree. When he did, he went down into a spring branch out in the open. It's probably a good 50 feet of opening there where I could see him perfect. And this time I just started shooting around him, splashing water up on him and hitting rocks. And then he'd move a little bit further, and I stayed after him. We crossed 2 ridges, And then I come back and hadn't heard anything out of that one since.
Wow.
Good
Wow.
story.
Were you able to find any hair or any blood anywhere?
No.
Wow.
No, that the shotgun just burned him. You know, this is a big
Yeah, it's
creature.
awful like buckshot, actually.
Right.
But you know, I've had a couple of creatures follow me home before. It's a weird situation. It's hard to understand how they're able to do that. But mine wasn't Dogman, mine was Bigfoot. But that particular creature, did you ever see it again after that?
Not that one. And what was surprising to me about it was I was waiting for it to be talked about in the community or at least come out in the newspaper, because the last 12 miles of the road going home was a state road. I met people. So I know somebody had to see this thing when he tracked me back to my home, but it was never told.
See, to me, that is insane. Like, how many miles? Did you say 18 miles? How long did it take for you to get home and for it to arrive?
It took me probably, I'm going to guess, 20 to 22 minutes to get 18 miles. Because this is like 45 mile an hour speed zones, you know, and I'm on a state road. It's sort of windy, so they had spots that had 50 mile an hour marked, 45 marked, and 30 mile an hour marked.
Mm.
Okay, but that was on in the evening, about the time the school kids were getting off, people were getting off of work. Somebody besides me should have seen him coming down that state road.
Somebody had.
How long did it take from the time you seen him step over the fence till they got to your house that evening?
When he stepped over the fence to my house, it was probably, I want to say 9 or 9:30 that evening. That night, it didn't get dark till about 8:30, 8:45. It was still summer, late summer.
Mm-hmm.
Must have wanted you pretty bad.
Well, I don't know if it wanted me or was just curious, because he could have had me in the woods.
No doubt. Those things have the power, I believe. Like they want you to get you. Now, this is the one that broke the top of your windshield out of your car, out of your vehicle, right?
Right. This is the one that broke the windshield and tore my mirror off, my side mirror on my driver's side.
Wow.
And the next one I called Laser Eyes.
Now, give us a time frame on this one. Now, the one you just had was in December of this last year?
Yes.
Right around Christmas?
Right at probably about 2 to 3 weeks before Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Laser Eyes, I went into the woods and I was tinkering around, looking for leftover ginseng and stuff like that. And again, the ringing in the ears. I've had it since I was a kid.
Let me stop you 1 second in case people don't know. Ginseng in Tennessee is a big crop. Everybody searches for it, and it's very valuable. Very valuable.
Right. It's a plant that brings quite a bit of money.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. And generally in December, it's mostly just a stem sticking out of the ground. If you pay attention, you can find the stems, and especially in the deep hollers where the frost hadn't got to it. But I come across Laser Eyes, and Laser Eyes was an odd dog man. And what got him after me is I found its puppy. And I was walking up a wide trail, beaten down trail, and there was nothing, no leaves or nothing in the trail. For this time of year, leaves had fell. The trail was clean. And when I come around the mountainside, there was about a 15-pound fur ball on a grapevine. Well, I stopped about 20 feet from it, watching it, not sure what it was. And then it was a little bit higher than my head, but I could still reach it. So when I walked,
let me interrupt you 1 second, because so people understand. When you're talking about a grapevine, you're talking about like a grapevine we swing on in the woods. It's a real thick vine that grows up to the top of the trees. Am I correct?
yes, a big, it can be as big around as your wrist or
Right.
the normal size. And it ventures off in several different vines. It'll hold your body weight. You could swing out over the valleys.
I swung on a mini when I was growing up.
Right.
So I want to make sure everybody understood what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry about it. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. So I'm going up this path and I see this thing on a grapevine, probably 8 feet in the air. And it's just a ball of fur. So out of curiosity, I still didn't know exactly what it was. His tail had been cut off and it was a bloody nub. So I had a pair of gloves in my pocket and I pulled my gloves out. And instead of putting my gloves on, I held them out in front of my hands and reached out and touched it. And it didn't growl or try to run or anything. So after looking at it there for a minute, I just reached up. It was coming down slowly. I just reached when it got within range and picked it up, sat down on the ground and set it in my lap looking at it and just petting it, stroking it. And he could see my shadow and followed me. So as I was doing that, I raised his lip up to look at his gums, and his gum was like a black, pink color, patchy, inside of his mouth, the roof of his mouth. But he had these exceptionally long canines. And when I shut his mouth with it holding his gum up, the bottom canines went into a pocket outside of his gums there. Fit perfectly. And they were a good 3 inches long. And this pup probably wasn't over 15 pounds. So I looked on the other side, and sure enough, the other side canine was up inside that pocket, just like the opposite side. So I was in my lap, rubbing him. He didn't have any hair on him. He was just a fur ball. So I pulled the fur back from his eyes, and they looked like 2 glass marbles. No pupils, no nothing there. There wasn't no white around my eyes, nothing. It just looked like 2 marbles.
Clear? Were they clear?
They were crystal
What color
clear.
were they?
Clear.
Clear.
I mean, they
okay.
were just clear. Looks like glass. Like he was looking into a glass marble. It didn't have no red marks in it for like veins, no pupils, nothing. And so I'm messing with him there for a minute. And then I said, well, I'm going to set him down in this trail. And I took him off my lap and set him in the trail. But he didn't, his legs were right, but his front legs was wrong. When he walked with his elbow and his paw touching the ground at the same time. So you had the big paw coming back to the narrow elbow, looked like a turkey leg, with the big part touching the ground and the narrow backbone. So I messed with him there for minutes, and then it dawned on me, there's a mother or something around here somewhere. So when I set him back up on the vine, these claws detracted out of his paws and hung to the vine. He started just slowly going up the vine. So I made my way out of there, and out that trail, I crossed over 2 more points in a ridge, and I went up in a holler and sat down. When I sat down in that holler resting, I seen something coming around the hill. Well, this thing had glowing red eyes. And I said, well, there's a logging road that cuts up, an old ancient logging road. Of course, it was growed up, terribly growed up. I eased up into that, and this thing was still following me.
Wow.
So I get back, I cross another fence at the top of the mountain, and then he comes across the fence, and the fence is down in certain areas. He just walks through crossing the fence, and I know by hunting this place, there's a sapling thicket with a bunch of briars. It's got an old house and a barn that's fallen down there. So I made my way into the old house. I pull my pistol out. I get into the corner in a room to where I can see the windows and the back door. So if he comes in there, I've got a clear shot on him. So while I'm doing that, nothing, no bird sounds, nothing was going on. Well, just in 30 minutes or so, everything went back to normal, bird chirping, the whole 9 yards. I said, well, I'm good to go. So I ease out of that. When I ease out there and go around the corner of the house, I hear a commotion to the right of me, and everything went quiet again. So I cut to the left, knowing that there was that old logging road there that would carry me back to the other end of the mountain to where my car was parked in this logging road. So I get, as I'm going around there, and I get to about where I think the next little hill I cross, my car is going to be there. So I get there, and I hear this commotion to the right of me. He's in this sapling thicket above these briars watching me. Every step I'm making, he's making a step. I'm going to get a drink of water here, or Pepsi.
Now, what kind of gun did you have with you then, Bruce?
22.
22.
22 pistol, 11 shot pistol. And he stayed to the right of me. I take 2 steps, he take 2 steps. But he wasn't being quiet. I was. He could care less. I wouldn't look him in the eyes because I called him laser eyes, because every time he'd look at me and I was moving, I could see 2 red dots on me.
Wow.
So I went on and got about halfway to my car. I could see my car good, but he stayed pace with me.
Now, how big a creature was he?
I would say he's probably 7.5 foot tall.
Wow. Big creature.
Yeah. But he stayed in that thicket walking on his back legs, in that briar thicket. And of course, in that saplings, he wasn't hiding from me. And there were times that I could have probably, if I'd have had a 3-foot stick and held my hand out, I could have touched him. You know, we got that close. But he never made any effort to attack me. So I kept the gun.
Let me ask you a question, because I don't think I've ever asked this question, but could you tell the distinctive difference? Was it a female or a male, or could you tell?
I could not tell because the lower half was in the bushes.
Right. And what color was this creature?
This one was a black with a red blotch on its forehead. Solid
kind
black.
Of smell? Was there any kind of smell to it?
No smell that I could determine.
Can I just ask, do you think perhaps it wasn't aggressive with you because it may have been watching how you handled the little one?
Yeah.
That's a possibility. And plus, through my Dogman and Sasquatch encounters, I talk out loud. When I come in contact with them, I talk out loud, and they become more curious about me. And I have personally not had one to charge me or try to attack me, but more or less follow me out of curiosity. So I didn't really receive a threat there. I just wouldn't look him in the eyes because I called him laser eyes, because he had those extremely bright red eyes that you could see on your clothes. So he's just a few feet to the right of me, but on my clothes I could see these two laser dots.
It's
You know,
crazy. That's crazy.
and there weren't small laser dots. They were like half the size of the bottom of a coffee cup.
Wow.
Wow.
How far
Really?
apart were they?
Huh?
How far apart were the eyes? The dots.
The
I mean.
eyes was probably, I'm gonna say 6 to 7 inches apart.
That's big.
You know,
That's
Now,
big.
the creature that followed you out of the woods a little bit before that, early December, that jumped on your rooftop and broke your windshield, that creature seemed to be a little more aggressive than this one.
right. But again, he didn't attack me out in the open. He waited
Yeah,
till I got in the car,
right.
and then he followed me home. But he didn't really attack my dog or make an attempt to attack me. But I knew I had to get him away from the house, so I shot him with a shotgun instead of a high-powered rifle because I didn't want
Right.
to kill him.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, he hadn't really done anything but scare us. You know.
Right. Now, how far distance are we talking about from this creature from the one you seen in early December? Was the same area?
Very close to the same area.
Okay.
Yeah. And
German Shepherd or Pit Bull snout? Cropped ears?
that's the ones I've dealt with. No German Shepherd snout, short snout. If you can imagine how long a cow's ears were, that's how these were. Now the hairless Dogman that I come across just a few weeks ago, he had the cow ears, but they were flopped over. They wouldn't stand up.
Interesting.
You said a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was your most recent one?
Yes.
Where was that at, Bruce?
That was right bordering the Standing Stone State Park. I had went up there to look at some old cabins that somebody had talked about that were there for many years ago for Boy Scouts that had fallen down and not been took care of. And I found that to be odd because why would they just abandon it? You know, not keep using it.
Has any of your neighbors or anybody else around there said anything to you about seeing something like that?
Oh, yeah.
So they're pretty commonly reported there?
Yes. Scott Hunt, one of our group experts, he's familiar with them too. And then a couple of the farmers there that we went on a coon hunt there. This over in Clay County side of Standing Stone State Park. And we had took some dogs in there. We had a couple old dogs and a couple young dogs that these guys wanted to train. And we went in there and we got almost to the Standing Stone State border. And the dogs passed us up. They come back running, and we started hearing what we thought were coyote calls, but they were too deep. And the dogs passed us up. Then we heard this extremely deep howl. It was just a gurgling type of howl. And I knowed what it was because I'd heard them before. So there was three of us, a landowner, me and another guy. We backed up to each other's backs, and I told them, whatever y'all do not shoot. We don't want to make these things mad. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I believe it's a Dogman. Well, they didn't know what a Dogman was. They had heard the calls before back in them hills around Standing Stone, but never knew what it was. Well, again, we had coon hunter lights with a battery strapped on their side, and we had hats on that had the lights on the hood of the hats, super bright. When we was backing out, one of them crossed the creek in front of us, and all three of us got to see it. And it was probably a 7 to 7.5 foot what they described as a wolf, what I knew was a Dogman, crossed a spring branch in front of us out in the open.
Now, is this Standing Stone we're talking about? Standing Stone State Park?
Standing Stone State Park.
Okay. Now, that's Scott Hunt lives very close to that. He's the gentleman who wrote our song for our introduction.
Right. And so we got up to each other's backs, and I said, no, whatever y'all do, don't shoot. Let's back our way out of here. We're a quarter of a mile from his barn. Let's get back out of here, get back on the other side of his house. 100 yards or so was his house. Well, one of the guys with us got really shook. And he had seen, one of them this one had climbed a cedar tree directly to the left of us. He just opened fire in that cedar tree. Well, this thing come down that tree and jumped out on the ground and then went behind us. And I said, now, man, we got a problem now, because now that's the way we got to go to get back to the barn and back to the house. So we're headed down through there. Now, we got another problem. We've got one to the left of us, and we got one to the right of us. We got one in front of us. Now we got one behind us. So we're boxed in. So we take our time, and we finally make it just about to the barn. Well, we can hear the one in the barn howling, and it's got a really deep scream howl. So I told the farm owner there that was hunting with us, I said, now we can go in the barn and see if we can flush him out and shoot him. He's too close to the house. You don't want him this close to the house. And he said, well, Bruce, he said, I've got an old truck, a tractor, and some hay in the barn. I don't have any cattle or anything in there. And I said, well, it's your call. If you want to go in, we'll go in. He says, no, let's just let it be. Because he was shook. He didn't want to deal with it. So we eased around the barn and headed back towards the house. When we got to the house, we found our dogs. They had left, run past us, and unbeknownst to us, they made it to the house, and that's where they were staying. You know, it scared the dogs. So a few months later, he calls me back, and he said, Bruce, I got a neighbor down the road really needs to talk to you. He's had some type of encounter, and he won't come out of his house. All right. Call him up and tell him I'll come by and talk to him. He said, he called him up, and he called me back, and he said, he really appreciate if you come by and talk to him. So I went down there. I talked to him for 2 or 3 hours. He said he was up next to the Standing Stone boundary, checking on his cattle and a tractor, and this giant wolf took out running after him. And he said he put his tractor in a high gear and come off the hill. In his mind, he'd outrun it. And I said, no, you didn't outrun it. It just bluff charged you. These things are fast. A tractor has no speed to it. He would have caught you if he wanted to. So as we talked to her, I said, can I come back tonight and we'll do a hunt? I generally don't do that kind of hunts at night. I like to do them over the daytime. And so we went back with not a squilling rabbit call, but a baby coyote pup dying call. So we went back up in there, and we called. We got some answers. And, of course, we got that deep growl at a long distance. And we got a couple packs of coyotes to answer us. And I told him, I said, let's ease back towards your house and sit on the porch. I said, these are nothing but coyotes, which I knew one of them wasn't. And so we get back to the house. I set the collar on the porch, and we're sitting in rocking chairs. So I leave the collar running, and a few minutes, nothing. So I cut the collar off, and then we could hear these high-pitched howls, and it was getting closer. So I cut the collar back on, let it run 15 minutes, cut it off, and it was even closer. Well, his wife, she didn't believe in none of that. Well, she had picked some chicken from supper, and she brought us a plate of fried chicken out on the front porch where we was sitting. And I'm still running the collar, so we was sitting there eating those chicken. And I asked, "What do you want to do with these bones?" And he was like, "Throw them out in the yard." I said, "Throw them in the yard?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm not going around. If I take them in the house, I'll have to take them out back to the hog pen tonight, and I'm not going back there at nighttime." And I said, "Okay." So we threw them out in the yard, and it wasn't but a few minutes we heard chicken bones crunching. So he's got a dim flashlight. I've got a pretty bright one. He cuts his flashlight on, and there's a dog man standing on two legs crunching these chicken bones. He's eating these chicken bones.
Wow.
So I take my light, reach down and get my light and shine it on him, and he's not paying a bit of attention to us. Well, he's got a shotgun, a 20 gauge shotgun over there where he's sitting, and it's a pump, and he's got birdshot in it. Number 8 birdshot for dove hunting. So we sit there and watch this thing eat these chicken bones, which was a sight to see. I mean, it shocked him. I was getting used to the idea. Didn't scare me. But when I reached over and picked up my flashlight and was shining on him, again, he didn't pay no attention. But when I reached and cut the collar off, he looked directly at us, went down on all fours, and he run to the end of the yard, and he had this huge maple tree. It would take 2 or 3 men to reach around it holding hands. He went right straight to the top of it, climbed up in the top. So we got down there with our lights, and I went to my vehicle and I got him a brighter light because he was using the old style D battery, but light, it wasn't an LED, it was just an old bulb type. So I got him a light. We walked back under the tree and we found him up in the very top of this tree, curled up, thought he was hid.
Wow.
And I said, we're going to have to run him off his property. And
Wow.
so he agreed to it. So, well, okay, let's find us a safe spot to shoot from because we don't want him jumping out on top of us, standing under the tree. So we stepped back a few yards and we started firing down on him with this bird shot. Well, he come down the tree. After about 8 or 10 shots, he come down the tree about 15 foot from the ground. He jumped and he hit this little driveway right next to this man's mailbox. And he was on all fours and he took up the drive. And when he got a good piece up the drive, and I mean a good piece, maybe 15, 20 yards, he went up on 2 legs running. So we pepper shotted him again, stung him a little bit again. He made a right-hand turn and went in the woods. And then that was the end of that. I stayed till after daylight with him. He was comfortable. He knew what they sounded like. So when he went to check on his cattle, he carried a gun now and stuff. But in between us shooting at him, the wife, who wasn't a believer, had stepped up on the porch, said, "Y'all ain't done nothing but call down a bunch of haints." Well, haints are in the Appalachian Mountains, and old people are ghosts, spirits. And but when she seen it come out of that tree and hit the road, she was a believer then. And this thing was probably 6.5 foot tall. Again, he had long ears, but his ears didn't stand up; they were flopped over.
Now, he was the hairless one, right?
No, the hairless one had the cow ears that he had.
Okay.
One that was broken, and one that about half stood up. He had huge ears on him.
Wow.
the hairless man encounter, that was a startling encounter at first, because we walked around this big gigantic rock in a creek. It was probably 12 to 14 foot tall and probably that big, if not 20 foot long. I was coming around it and he was coming around it, and we was in 12 to 14 feet of each other, and we shocked each other. So he went back behind the rock and up on the hill, and that's the one that followed me. I went directly down the creek at a slow pace, talking out. And then when I went up on a couple points over and 2 hollers over and went up about 30 yards up on the hill, he come down the creek, and he didn't have a bit of hair on him. He was walking down the creek on all fours. But when he got even to me, he raised up and looked directly at me. When I let out a big scream like I was a monster, he let out a scream, and he went one way and I went the other.
Wow.
Overall, Bruce, how many of these things have you encountered in your lifetime?
In 50 years, I probably 28, 29, 30.
Wow.
I thought I'd had a lot of encounters. I've seen 4,000, and I've never heard of anybody that's seen as many as you have. So
you have some amazing stories.
I've come to the conclusion that they're not out to kill us or harm us. Of course, if you back them up or in a predicament, looks like you would back an animal into a corner, yeah, I'm sure something bad would happen. I've had one experience.
Do you think that you have an Indian native blood in you, like maybe I do or other people? Michelle,
well, you do have Cherokee in you, right, Bruce?
Yes. My grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee Indian.
Yeah. So does Daryl. So do I, really. Yeah. We're all brothers.
My great-grandfather married my great-grandmother he took her off of the Trail of Tears and married her. And they wouldn't give him his last name. They give him the name of Christian, Will Christian. So that's where she was taught out of the Bible and was a Christian. Even on the Trail of Tears, she believed in that. And so they give them the name when they were married Christians.
That's crazy. I think some of us, I think some people, maybe you even, could be maybe marked by these creatures. They seem to find you. So
that's the thing I wanted to ask Mr. Moorhead. During quantum physics, energy, matter, frequency, I have the ringing in the ears, and those ringing in the ears put out a frequency. I don't go looking for these things. They come looking for me.
Maybe that frequency you're putting out has got something to do with that.
Right.
Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and
right.
Frequency will vibrate, and it's sending out. We send out things all the time. We are energy people.
Right. We can see energy and feel energy.
Yes.
And like in some of my Bigfoot encounters, where I've had the real friendly encounters, and especially at night, I'll either see a globe right before I have an interaction with them, or I will see a bright flash of light that's really quick. You ain't looking, you won't see it. So I think that's the energy that they're putting out. They have so much energy. I think they have mastered that, and that makes them smarter than us.
Well, it makes them special.
Right.
I think you're on target with that, because frequency and light kind of go together. You take any tone at the 49th octave and it turns into light. So the scope of their vocal mechanism is, at least Bigfoot, I'm not sure about Dogman, but it's amazing what I think they can do, and what I've witnessed myself. But it's all theory until one comes up and starts Well, we got to befriend them.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as they don't eat you, you're okay.
In one of my instances with the Bigfoot, we were in the woods hunting late at night, and again, we had some hounds, some coon hounds, and my buddy looks over at me and he said, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "What do you mean? Did I hear that?" He said, "Did you hear that noise? That talking?" I said, "There is nobody back here. The old man owns the property. He's got 1,200 acres. We're 3 miles easily to the closest house, and that was his." And he said, "Well, I can hear somebody repeat what we're talking about." And I said, "Well, I haven't heard nothing." He said, "Well, just stop and listen a minute." And he said, "Bruce, did you hear that?" Well, up on top of the mountain, a good 100 yards from us, somebody said, "Bruce, do you hear that?"
I know they have the capability to mock you
Yeah.
because the ones I had on the river mock me on a regular basis. So
They toy with you, Bruce. So they'll mess with you like that. They'll
Yeah.
follow you out and do everything except hurt you.
Right. No, I've been lucky. I've been except the rogue one.
let me
Well,
ask you a question.
tinnitus may have something to do with that. You know,
Yes.
the ringing in your
I
ears.
think it could. Yeah, let me ask you another question, Bruce. Have
Yeah.
you seen any other type creatures besides the Dogman and Bigfoot?
I've seen the crawler. Some of them call them rake.
Yeah.
Don't like those.
The ones I seen weren't really big. You could say big, maybe 4 foot, maybe 5 foot.
That's
Slimy. Maybe.
That's like the one we seen in the LBL. It was probably 5 foot.
And when whatever they touch, or they go up the side of a tree so fast,
yeah. That's what we seen.
they leave a slime like a snail. They're just horrendous. They're nasty. You know.
I got a question. The fur ball you found that time, you said his tail was cut off?
Tail was cut off and bloody.
It was actually cut off. You think it was cut off by some?
I don't know if it was. To me, it looked like he'd got in an accident, or may have got it bitten off. It wasn't a clean cut.
Poor guy. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's always got to be one in the crowd. It's me.
That's all right. We're proud of you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Well, the Dogman that you see that were standing up, they had tails?
Yes. The first Dogman I ever seen, I was deer hunting. It come across a field, and I was thinking, that is the biggest dog I'd ever seen in my life. And then as it got closer, well, that's the biggest wolf I've ever seen in my life. And then when it got in, and I looked through my scope at it, it was clearly neither one. I didn't know what it was. And then it was probably, the body on it, on all fours, was probably 8 foot long, and its tail was 2/3 the length of the body.
Wow, long tail then.
Yeah. And then what got me interested in that is after I seen him and he spotted me, he didn't run, he galloped like a horse.
Oh, yeah.
And went
It's
out
like
of
a
sight.
loping. They lope.
Yeah, loping.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My first one I seen in Tazewell County, Virginia, galloped like a horse. I couldn't believe it. It didn't run, it galloped.
Right. Well, when I waited, I made sure I stayed in the tree stand till I felt safe. When I come down out of a tree stand a couple hours later and went behind the tree stand to go back through the woods to where my truck was parked, it was on my farm. And there was a low spot there that stayed wet. And in that spot, this thing had circled me after that, and I didn't even know it because his tracks were there. And so I had my backpack where I had carry a backpack, and I carry a paper plate and stuff like that, and beanie weenies, stuff like that to eat out of. And when I laid my paper plate over its tracks, my paper plate was probably a half inch to an inch bigger than its track.
Wow, that's a big creature.
And that's a standard paper plate. So he had a huge paw on him.
Gosh.
And then the other,
You
some
think
of
the
the other,
back paws are bigger than the front paws?
yes.
Now, did it
Yes.
have the hock on the back part of it?
Yes, it had the hawk, but it had the human form in the front legs. It had the muscular, looks like we was lifting weights and stuff. Had this massive chest thick, but had huge muscles in his arms.
Wow.
You know, the slime you're talking about that they have.
Uh-huh.
We never get some of that. We get it tested, DNA. Doug Hijack does that stuff. He's done that before, I think. But have you noticed that other than that one time you told us about?
On
the
the
slime?
on the
On the tree?
How
about your windshield? Did you notice anything like that in your car?
Yeah, the windshield of my car was slimed by a Dogman. I couldn't see how to get to the road. He slimed it so bad, slobbered it, I called it, that I had to cut my windshield wiper blade and my windshield washer, so I contaminated my evidence. And see, he was on top of my car. The second time, this different one was on top of my car again, and I slung him off by making a hard turn and hitting the brakes, and slung him off, and I took off. But going down the road, I couldn't see until I cut my windshield wipers on in the fluid, and then I knew my evidence was gone. It's contaminated.
Interesting. You got some interesting stories, Bruce. It's really nice having you here tonight to tell us that stuff.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think it warrants a part 2.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering about that, Michelle.
Yeah.
So much. He's got so much to tell.
Yes.
Have you got other stories, or are we caught up, Bruce?
No, I've got other stories. And of course, I'm trying to do a little research on the quantum physics. I'm not. Some people.
Ron actually has the best book for that. I can assure you. I've read it 5 times. It's
Okay.
Quantum, and
thank you, Daryl.
You can get one of those. Every time I read it, I learn a little something that I missed on the previous reading. So,
Yeah, I have this on paranormal part of it. On the Dogman, I'm 70% there, but I'm not 100%. I think it's flesh and blood. The Bigfoot, flesh and blood. I think to where they have been able to harness their brains they're much smarter than us. I mean, you don't go in the woods and then not know you're there. They know you're there.
They know you're there and you get out of your vehicle.
Yeah. So I believe on the Bigfoot, the chameleon effect, I believe they can disappear and blend into anything. So I don't know if that's supernatural. I'm just not there yet. As being a former detective, I like to have hard proof. I don't believe in the shooting things that I don't understand. I like to figure out what it is, and my curiosity on the scientific part. The Dogman, the only reason why I lean a little bit towards the paranormal, but not 100% there, is because of laser eyes. And he's the only one that showed me that could be. But then again, that could be frequency and matter and the energy that he's been able to harness.
You know, Martin Groves and I had an encounter in October of 2023 in the LBL of a completely different Dogman creature than I've ever seen. I've seen 4, and that one was completely different. It went from like a blue-red mist into a creature, and it was massive. The head was about half the size of our windshield and had mane like a lion. But this creature also didn't walk, it kind of glided around our vehicle, and it was also transparent at the same time. which is very strange. But
Something like something like the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot in the woods moves at a fast pace,
it's
and it looks
unbelievable, like a
yeah
blur. It's a
yeah,
blur.
and he looks like he's gliding.
Yeah.
He's got that. He doesn't have straight legs like we do. He's got that bend in that knee, so it looks
Right.
like he's gliding, but he's really moving on. He can move
Yeah.
through that brush. It's unreal. I estimated one where I was take one tree and another tree, and then count how far it takes to get that tree, and mathematically solve it. And I had one running at 38 miles an hour between the two trees. Now that's fast in the woods.
Well, it's been reported. Dr. Fehrenbach reported. He's a Oregon primate guy. Said that some people report one run along with their car. They was going 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't compare that to a horse too. The horse,
Right.
they got legs, so why not?
Yeah.
But as far as can they disappear or not disappear, or for they just flesh and blood? Well, we're not just flesh and blood. I mean, we're all energy, frequency, and vibration. That's who we are. And I think through my studies, I've determined that they have to have a human component to them. And we have the ethereal part, which is our religious belief, you want to call it, but it's a spiritual part that doesn't die. According to quantum physics, energy can't die. According to Einstein and Paul Dirac, both they got the Nobel Prize for energy and matter interchanging. Matter and energy can interchange. If you find the frequency of anything, you can change matter.
Yes.
So that's where I go with it, because these things leave fingerprints. They have a human component to them. I'm pretty sure of that. At least the ones I dealt with in this area.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
They're just not all the same, though. I got to tell you, there's so many things going on out there with there's a lot to say about all that stuff.
I've come across some that's more advanced than others.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of them more advanced than us, because our telomeres have been, that's our DNA has been, number 2 chromosome has been cut. So we're only allowed to live a certain length of time. The rest of it is junk DNA, they call it, but it's just something that's been separated from us. We have a lot more potential with us as humans. We were created to be more than what we are showing right now. And I like to say those things, Michelle. And it's not even Sunday either.
Go crazy.
But we're all spiritual beings, whether we like it or not. Just your life goes on. You can't die. Your biological body's going to go away. But if these things are like that too, who knows what's going on? But I think they are multiplying. There's more and more things, more and more people are seeing them. And
100%. More than
I totally believe in aliens. Aliens have been here and they manipulate the DNA of different entities. They're crossbred. And anyway, it deserves another program, Michelle.
I know. I say we do it.
Bruce alone can give us another program. He's got so much stuff. It's very interesting to listen to you, Bruce.
Let me ask you a question, Bruce. You've been around so many of these creatures, probably more than anybody that I know of. You said you do believe that they run together, the Dogman and the Bigfoot?
The clan's Bigfoot, if you deal with a female, you can get more accomplished. I've had some down here on the Cumberland River.
I've had great luck on the Cumberland River with female.
Above Carthage, Tennessee, the Cordell Hull Dam, in that where she will actually come in and sit down next to a rock next to me while she keeps the males and everybody back. She hand signs. She makes a sound like a tree frog. She's got a clicking sound like when we were kids, we had these little plastic clickers.
Right.
She can make all those noises. And she does know some English words. I was there last spring, and she told me, she said, help. She sat down beside of me and said, help. And I told her I didn't know what she meant by help because I didn't see anything wrong with her. And then we were there another 30 or 45 minutes, and she was trying to make hand signals, and one of her hand signals was to her mouth. And then when she got up to go, the rest of them, as she got around the hill, fell in behind her and followed her. Well, I followed them to a cave system. And just inside the cave system, right out of sight, when I got there, I heard another voice, not hers, say, no, no, no. So I left, and going home, I had passed a pecan stand on the side of the road in Carthage, Tennessee on Highway 25. I got home, was thinking about it. Maybe they were hungry. We had a bad nut crop that year. Maybe they were hungry. So I got back in my truck and I drove down to this guy's stand and I bought 4 big bags of pecans. And I went back up there, and by the time I got to the cave, it was almost dark. I laid them at the entrance of the cave, and then I heard, thank you, thank you. And it repeated till I walked plumb out of sight.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But those are the river clans. Now, the mountain clans tend to be a lot bigger and more aggressive. River clans are run by the females.
Yeah, I think the females carry a lot of weight in those things.
Yeah, they're the
That's very
leaders.
important. And the males are more protective. They want everybody to stay away from us humans. You know,
Right.
they're just a little more that way. And I think like some of that argument we had in our recordings up there was a male and a female arguing, and according to the linguist that listened to it, said the female won the argument. I thought you liked that, Michelle.
I was going to say yes, and this
and
is
it
an
also
amazing
holds
thing.
with the sighting that was on Size Cross Chronicles, number 515. It was a lady from Europe who came over here and went on a break over by the ocean by Carmel, the Monterey area there. And she was sitting on the rocks waiting for the sun to go down, and she saw 5 Bigfoots go out into the water. There was 2 adolescents, 2 females, and a male. The big male went out in the water, was pulling up seaweed, throwing it back to the females, and they was doing something with it. Well, she couldn't believe what she was seeing, so she thought, I got to take a picture of this. She dropped her lens cover on the rocks. The male heard it, saw her, and started screaming at her, and she fainted when it started charging towards her. But she said before it got to her, the female stopped it.
Right.
So the females are protecting us. And I think that's what was going on the night when I interacted with them in the Sierras. When the big samurai cry I heard up here went down to the adolescent and the female down by the creek.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were getting my attention. I was trying to mimic what they were saying, not knowing they were really saying something. They were. And I think the male was disturbed at that. He didn't want that to happen. And I've also been told that that's what was going on. I don't know if this is true, any of it, but I know it's true what I saw, but what I witnessed, but that the conversations going on between these things on some of our recordings was definitely a male trying to make something happen, not good. The females were stopping it. So that falls right into what you were talking about there, Bruce.
I think it goes back into the Cherokee Indians, especially around in this area. The women were the head of the household. They didn't live in teepees. They lived in buildings, four-cornered buildings.
Lodges.
Yeah. If they had a problem with their husband, they didn't think he was doing what he needed to do, they would just set his stuff outside the door, and that was his thing to go on down the road. That was his divorce. He just get her enough. So I think these Sasquatch have picked up that the women are in charge.
Yep,
You know.
Yes.
they always have been. They always will be.
Well,
Right.
they do hold the
I don't know why this
lead.
amazes everybody. I'm
You're the
playing.
dominating factor here, Michelle.
Yeah.
The one thing about it, I personally had a very close relationship with the female, the very first one that I befriended on the river for a long time, and she was the one that I went through for everything. So I do believe that. The river ones are definitely different than the higher mountain ones.
Hmm.
They will the ones I dealt with on the river, the females will wear seashells, or what I call seashells, or mussels, and little snails that's in the creeks. They'll make decorative objects out of them and weave them in their hair.
Hmm.
So they're more human than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, guys, we're at the top of the second hour. Look at you guys go. That's outstanding. So, Bruce, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
You get me on Facebook, or you get me through my email, Bruce Brown 12525 at gmail.com, and or they can catch me in the woods somewhere.
Out in the woods.
Yeah, Bruce
I don't
is.
know. I
Bruce
think
is. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, so I think it'd be kind of cool hanging out with Bruce. He seems to come across very interesting company.
Yeah, we got to do that, Daryl.
Yeah, we'll get him together with us when we're down there. And of course, Bruce is in my group. He's one of my experts, and I'm honored to have him in there. And we sure appreciate you coming on, brother.
I appreciate y'all having me, and I got a couple places I'd like to take y'all to.
I want to go to the cave.
Well, I'll be there in March.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll all get together along with Martin Groves, and maybe I'd like to go to that cave that has some of the bones in it.
Yeah. I'm superstitious. I won't take them out, or we can get some pictures of them, or whatever. How y'all want to
I
do
don't
it.
look to take any artifacts, but I'd like to.
Well, you shouldn't do that. That's very
Right.
wrong. I know when I was down in Peru, we got in some of those tombs down there and looked at the bones, but you don't take them out. You know, the skulls and the fevers and all that.
That's how you get into trouble.
You get in a lot of trouble that way down there. I'd still be down there if I took those out.
Yes.
So they give me one clan showed me an ancient fire pit, but they laid the sticks in there in Y positions, and that was to let me know not to remove anything or bother anything. So I haven't gone all the way into them. I can shine the light back there, can see the bones and stuff, but
yeah, I don't
nothing.
care to go back in there myself. I'd like to see them, but not go back in that cave for sure.
Yeah, but that's the cave I followed them to, and they're, like I said, they're a real friendly bunch.
Well, I found out that the Y symbol with the sticks and also the X's are friendly signs.
Yes.
It might depend on the clan. Tom Cantrell, who just passed away yesterday, you've heard of him, I guess, maybe. He was into stick structures and stuff like that, and he says it depends on the clan. He's written a whole book on that, really.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not unusual. A lot of Native Americans used to use stick structures to show where they were going, so someone coming behind them could know where they went.
Right.
So it's a common thing, but
I
you gotta
left
know how to read it.
Yeah, I had gifted them a Mountain Dew and a Pepsi, right around from the cave into an overhang, and then they had a burial chamber to the cave next to it with these massive rocks, weigh tons, flat rocks where they had made burial chambers out of them, and of course I wouldn't go into that or touch that, but I had left them. I'd had a Mountain Dew bottle and a Pepsi can full of Pepsi, and I had left them that at an overhang just right around from that, And out of curiosity, I wanted to see if they could unscrew the bottle, which they didn't unscrew the bottle. They bit into it and drank the Mountain Dew, but they did pop the top on the can of Pepsi. And then I found the big tracks, 18 and 19-inch tracks all around there.
Clever.
It's pretty interesting. I've had a few of those type things myself.
Yeah.
We had one that we would leave a loaf of bread. There would a whole entire loaf with a tie on it. They would take the bread, and all the bread was gone, and they brought the wrapper back with a tie on it, like they wanted us to refill it.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That was my family on the river that I was so close to for about 5 years.
Very nice.
Well, I'm excited about getting back there and seeing you, Bruce. And
Yeah, me too. Glad to know you and get to meet you. And
same
I
here.
believe that quantum physics, that energy. Like I said, a lot of people get out here and they see that ball's of light, or they see that flash, and then a Bigfoot before or after. I think they just have so much energy that flash of light just comes off their body.
That's awesome.
Well, they turn into the light. Yeah, that's ball of light. That's an orb. Their energy from their body will go into. Well,
we'll definitely all get together sometime in early March, Bruce.
Yeah,
right. That works for me.
Well,
I'll be in touch with you regularly anyway. Like you said, I really appreciate you coming on, and we may have you on again.
All right. Anytime.
yeah, I'm down for a part 2. Thank you. And thanks to everybody in the chat room for joining us this evening. Thank you to Bruce for joining us. We have been listening to Two Real Cryptid Legends on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. So thank you all. I would say good night, but I think we're officially good morning.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being on, Bruce.
Yep, appreciate it. And y'all have a good night there. And blessed
I'll
night.
talk to you soon. Thank you
All
again.
righty.